Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. I am, as always, your host, Tiger Paul Craven. We got a jam-packed show for you guys tonight. A ton, and I mean a ton, has happened in the world of college football since we were last on this show. Championship weekend happened. And then all that followed, the coaching carousel, the meltdown over the final college football playoff rankings, all of that and more we will get into during tonight's show. But before we get into the show, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. It really helps us out, helps grow the channel. We're on the road to 6,000 subscribers, so help us out with that. Also, hit that like button. Helps grow the channel and also helps us out on these live videos especially. So while you're in here, while you're watching, you might as well go ahead and hit that like button. It's free and it really helps us out. Also, we have channel memberships. Hit that join button directly below this video if that's what you're interested in. You'll get bonus content. You'll get game streams and bonus live streams that are not available to the rest of the YouTube community. So check that out. Join, select your betting or select your tier there, and you'll get access to all of those videos. And then last but certainly not least, as we get towards the end of the show and me and Jordan get through all of our planned topics for tonight, we will turn it over to you guys, the comment section, the live chat. We can't get to each and every comment. We will get to as many as possible. But if you want to ensure that your comment and or question is read to and reacted to during this live episode, hit that super chat button. It supports the channel, and it will ensure that we see your comment and respond to it during this live episode. With all of that said, and without further ado, let's go ahead and kick off this episode of the All In Show. Let me bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. Jordan, what's up, brother? How you doing tonight?
I've been better. I was doing good maybe like 40 minutes ago when I was watching this Clemson basketball team absolutely putting it on BYU, and now they're in the process of like completely blowing the lead. But other than that, man, things are good. A lot going on in the world of college football, a lot going on with Clemson. We got a lot to talk about, and I was late tonight, so let's not waste any further time.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a ton to talk about and not a ton of time to do it in. So quick shout out to the comment section before we start the show. Blood Moon is in here. Thank you so much for being in here. John Sarin, one of our OGs, one of our members of the channel. So thank you so much for supporting the channel in that way, John. We appreciate you being in here tonight. Show Out 2, Fire is in here. Thank you so much for being in here and commenting already. So I think I hit everybody who got into the comment section already. Continue to comment throughout the show. Get your questions in. Get your things that you would like for us to talk about in. And like I said, once we are done with our planned portion of the show, we will turn it over to you guys, the comment section, for the remainder of our time here. As the regular season has come to an end, and we transition into the postseason, bowl games, playoff, things like that. That ever thing called the transfer portal is approaching. It happens every single offseason. Tons of players move around college football. It is becoming a bigger and bigger thing each and every offseason. It seems like we just top a new number every single year when it comes to the transfer portal and players that are moving around college football, not just in Clemson University, but all the universities are around college football. It is a crazy time. It's basically free agency every single year. Anybody can come recruit, poach, or grab your players. You can do the same, and it is just mayhem in college football, especially when you think about the calendar that is college football. You're in the middle of bowl season. Some teams are in the middle of playoff preparation, and that transfer portal looms and it's going to start January 2nd. So it's approaching very quickly. And obviously, we've already talked about a couple of Clemson's transfer portal enrollees, transfer portal defections, if you will. In last week's episode, that was D. Creighton and Shelton Lewis. Both had entered the transfer portal before we did last week's episode. We talked about them. We talked about what that meant for the Clemson Tiger roster going forward. But we've had a couple more enter the transfer portal since that time, Jordan. Keith Adams Jr. and Khalil Barnes. Khalil Barnes, obviously being a safety, started, I think, every game this year, possibly. Played a lot of snaps, regardless. I think he had 40 tackles this season. Played a lot of football for Clemson. One of the more seasoned guys in that safety room is going to be headed elsewhere. And then Keith Adams Jr., a guy that's a graduate of Clemson University. His dad played at Clemson University. He's a Clemson guy through and through. Just could never really crack that rotation of the running back room. Physical back, a guy that's looking to run people over, a guy that has, not had a lot of traction here at Clemson just because he's been buried on the depth chart, but a cool guy to watch run the football nonetheless, and the limited amount of time that we've been able to get to see him throughout his career. But, Jordan, those are the two earliest additions to the transfer portal for this Clemson Tiger team. So total of 4 since the season has ended. That's Shelton Lewis, D. Creighton, Keith Adams Jr., and Khalil Barnes. Your thought on the transfer portal so far, and what these transfer portal guys mean for Clemson as far as losing them on the roster?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with Keith Adams Jr. He announced first today. Obviously, a guy that Clemson legacy. Obviously, nobody needs to tell you about his father, Keith Adams, one of the best linebackers in school history. And his time here was always kind of just, you would always hear about him in practice and in the off season. You always hear about the good things he was doing. But, you never felt like he was really a realistic threat to ever threaten for real playing time, especially in meaningful games. Obviously not the most gifted athlete, and is not going to, have that breakaway speed, but I mean, he's a bruiser, man. I mean, you saw him in the limited runs he got over the course of his career. He was a very, very physical runner. Clemson just didn't feel like they needed to use him in some of their more important games. And hey, it is what it is. I don't necessarily think that Keith Adams Jr. is a starting quality running back, at least not at a high level. But I definitely think he could have, gotten more opportunities than he did over the course of his career. But nonetheless, he's got a year left and he wants to go play. I don't blame him. With Gideon Davidson returning, obviously, Jay Haynes spent a lot of the year out with injury. So, and then obviously David Eziamume and Jarvis Green are still in that room as well. I mean, it's a crowded room, and there wasn't really going to be a whole lot of room for upward mobility for him. And he's a guy that's been in the program a long time, so don't blame him for going to play. Interested to see where he ends up. Khalil Barnes obviously is probably the most notable of the departures so far. A guy that, came, late flip from Wake Forest when he was recruited by Clemson, a guy that had a breakout freshman season. And just since then hasn't really been able to find his footing. He's had moments here or there, but at times he's struggled with in coverage and with physicality. I think he's a really talented football player, but I think a change of scenery is probably where he felt like what he needed to do. I don't necessarily think that that's the right decision, and I think Clemson probably wants to keep him. But I think at this point in his career, it was just kind of his time to try something different. So don't blame him. Wish him the best. I think he is a good kid, and I think he is a really talented football player, and he could have success elsewhere. So wish him the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Wish all those guys the best. Shelton Lewis, D. Creighton, Keith Adams Jr. and Khalil Barnes. I think Khalil Barnes, that one probably stings a little bit more because it's such a position of need for the Clemson Tigers. And it's a position that is going to have to be dealt with in the portal probably very heavily. And even more so now that you lose a guy in Khalil Barnes who played a ton of snaps and had, a lot of tackles for you this season and is one of those more veteran guys in that safety room. You're losing, some more veteran guys and Tyler Venables and guys like that. But, just definitely a position of concern as Clemson enters the offseason and something that will have to be addressed via the transfer portal. So those are the guys that will be leaving Clemson via the transfer portal. And we will get into what Clemson needs to get done in the transfer portal and what their strategy should be a little bit later in the show. But in the meantime, if you guys did not know, Clemson at the Voice of College Football, the Voice of College Football as a whole has our very own website, vocfb.com. That's vocfb.com. You see it right there on the screen. You got our show schedules off to the left. Not just the Clemson show, but all the shows throughout the Voice of College Football Network, all the articles and stuff that are written by people that run these channels and people that are involved in the Voice of College Football. So, not your typical media writers, but just, fans and people that love to cover the game and have joined this great team in the Voice of College Football. So go check it out over there. There's fan forums over there. There's the show schedule. There's articles. There's tons of stuff to go check out over at thevoiceofcollegefootball.com. So I trust you guys will go over there, show us some love, check it out, let us know what you think, and we appreciate your support with that. One of the big things for the Clemson Tigers heading into the offseason is staff and what changes will happen on this Dabo Swinney staff as we head into this 2026 spring and eventually the 2026 college football season. Obviously, 2025 did not go as planned, particularly on the offensive side of the ball a lot of times. On the defensive side of the ball, really, too. But you hired a new coordinator over there last season. There are probably changes that are going to happen on both sides of the ball, I would assume. But there has been a ton of rumors, Jordan, on what staff changes are going to happen, when they're going to happen, if they happen, who's going to come. And just give me your thoughts and your take on all the rumors that have started to happen as the regular season has ended for the Clemson Tigers, when some of these staff changes may come. And where do you see those changes coming? Is it before the bowl game, after the bowl game, prior to the transfer portal opening up, after the transfer portal opens up? How do you see this playing out at Clemson and a lot of these rumors that are swirling on different forums and fan pages that have been exploding since the end of the regular season when we took on the Gamecocks and won that game in Columbia?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I mean, I'll talk about probably the staff position that the people have the most interest in and the most eyes on. The offensive coordinator position and Garrett Riley and what the future is there. There's been a lot of speculation, regarding him and potential jobs. He was a name involved for the Coastal Carolina job. I mean, I think he still is involved for the Coastal Carolina job. But he's been kind of linked to various openings throughout this offseason. And I think people just kind of need to let things play out. I'm not going to be the one to say that Garrett Riley won't be back next year, because I don't necessarily think that has been fully determined yet. We shall see. But I do think that he is looking, and there are, I think part of this is determining whether or not he goes and takes another job, and whether or not he's selected. I think will determine a lot of what the future plans are on offense for this team. And I think that also bleeds into, whether or not they go and get a quarterback and other weapons, offensive position groups. So, this is a very fluid situation. So I think, it's one of those things you just kind of have to wait and see how it plays out. But everybody's trying to be the first to, break the news or something, or put something out there about this whole situation with the staff and who's leaving and who's not. And, I think there's a lot of good information and there's a lot of people putting out bad information right now. So I'd be, cautious about, what rumors you jump on top of and what you believe right now, because I think that's very fluid. And then, with, flipping to the defensive side of the ball, obviously Mickey Conn was, in the rumor mill quite a bit. Clemson safety coach. When Clemson support staffer John Grass took the Samford job, there was a lot of reports that Mickey Conn was going to follow him and go be his defensive coordinator. And that was obviously, since that news has come out that John Grass was taking the job, there's been no movement in terms of Mickey Conn or anything like that, which tells you he's more than likely not interested in leaving. So I think that's something that you guys, not you guys, but the fan base in general just kind of has to wait and be patient on. I do tend to believe that Mickey Conn will not be your safeties coach next year. But how that plays out, we'll have to see. But it's again, and I think that's another staff position that we're just going to have to wait and see how things play out, and it'll also determine kind of the future on that side of the ball as well, in terms of what they decide to do this offseason when it comes to maybe further staff changes or portal acquisitions. I think that's all that I think those are all things that are still up in the air. But I definitely I feel more confident in saying that Mickey Conn won't be your safeties coach next year than I am Garrett Riley won't be your offensive coordinator next year. So, and that's about as far as we can say right now.
Absolutely, Jordan. The rumors will be endless until all of this works out and the dust is settled and the staff is locked in and the transfer portal class is locked in and we know what this football team looks like going into 2026. Until that time, there will be a ton of speculation. There will be a ton of rumors. Names will be attached to Clemson jobs that aren't open yet. Clemson coaches will be attached to jobs throughout the country. It's a very interesting time. It's a time where you don't really know exactly what to believe and what not to believe until it comes out officially. But I do still hold true to the fact that I believe there will be staff changes, as several staff changes along this Clemson coaching staff. I tend to believe, as far as a timeline for the Clemson fans out there wondering, what's the timeline on kind of this stuff? When's it going to happen? Like, if Dabo Swinney's going to make a change, when's he going to make the change? In my opinion, and granted, this is just my opinion, Dabo Swinney can do whatever he wants with his staff, but if he is going to make staff changes, particularly at key points on the staff, such as coordinators, offensive coordinators, obviously a popular topic with Clemson fans this offseason, and the potential change that could happen there. I think you have to have spots like that locked in prior to the January 2nd transfer portal opening. I don't know if you could go into that transfer portal season with as many needs as Clemson's going to go into it with and be able to convince the guys that you need to convince that Clemson is the right spot if they don't know who their coach is going to be or if that is kind of in limbo. So that's kind of, my thought. I would like to see it, whatever changes are going to be made locked in before that. But again, it's a very short time span. It's already December 9th. The portal opens up on January 2nd. So, we will see. There's still time to get all of that done. But again, it's a lot easier said than done. Things are probably happening behind the scenes that are not being reported, that are not being talked about. I'm sure Dabo Swinney knows what he's going to do. and he's ironing out the details in the background. But again, have to wait and see. It's kind of a waiting game, and it's hard to do as a fan because you want to see the end result now, right? Like you want to see who's going to be fired or who's going to move on and who's going to be replaced and who are they going to be replaced with. So big waiting game for the Tigers, for the fans, and it's going to be interesting over the next couple weeks. I'm sure there will be a ton of news for me and Jordan to cover right here on the channel when it comes to more staff rumors and then eventually staff changes to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of this time of year is wait and see because these conversations are still being had, and in some cases they haven't been had yet. So that's the reality of it.
Absolutely. I tell you what, you guys should not be waiting for. You should not be waiting to go check out the Voice of College Football's merch. That's right. We do have official merch. The Clemson channel has official merch. It is Christmas. 'Tis the season. Go check it out. Go get something for that favorite Clemson fan of yours, that person that loves our Tigers and loves the Voice of College Football Clemson channel. Get them something nice. Go check it out over on VOCFB-shop. That's VOCFB-shop. We got different hats, T-shirts, polos, crew neck sweaters, tumblers, koozies, coffee mugs. Go check it out over on VOCFB-shop. That's VOCFB-shop. Get yourself something nice. Get that Clemson fan in your life something nice, and go ahead and check somebody off your Christmas list today. The transfer portal will open January 2nd. A little less than a month away, Jordan. The transfer portal will be open. Clemson will have a lot of needs that they need to fill via the transfer portal. We signed a really good recruiting class. We had a lot of good pieces in this recruiting class, but we're already losing players. We've lost 4 so far via the transfer portal, some in key positions that we were already going to need to fill via the transfer portal, so it's even more of a need there. Let's talk about what Clemson's strategy in the portal needs to be and maybe will be this offseason. I think this is going to be a very unique offseason for the Clemson Tigers. I think they're going to have to lean into the portal much more aggressively than they ever have before. Clemson's had 5 total portal players since the transfer portal became a thing 5 years ago. So they're averaging 1 a year at this point. They had 3 last season, which was the most ever by a Dabo Swinney coach team. Obviously, when we brought on Will Helt, Tristan Smith, and Jeremiah Alexander. This season is going to be much different, I believe. I think there are more position groups than not that you are going to have to go out to the portal and get a piece, whether that's a depth piece, whether that's a piece that you're looking to compete and start. It's a myriad of different things that you're going to be looking for, but the transfer portal is going to be key to building this Clemson roster in 2026. Jordan, what's the strategy? What should Clemson be looking for? How should they attack this transfer portal season? Because you only have one. There is no transfer portal season anymore after spring. This is the one, the only, opens up January 2nd. You got to get what you need right now for the 2026 season.
Yeah. Well, obviously the portal strategy is also, is going to, first and foremost be determined by what you bring back. But I do think that, Clemson will, I do think they will be probably the most active they've ever been in the portal. I think the thing that maybe Clemson fans probably aren't going to want to hear is that you probably won't know much about who they're targeting until it's coming. I think Clemson is going to, kind of take things where, they're not going to want a lot of information out. They're going to keep things kind of low key. They want to make sure that there is no sort of, information being put out there that, kind of makes it difficult for them to, secure their portal, targets, because you got to keep in mind that Clemson is kind of like how they are with recruiting. They're going to be selective, but they also, they're not going to have the most funds, to bring to the table as everybody else. I do think they'll be, I think they'll be well, compensated, or not compensated, but they'll be well prepared for this portal cycle in terms of the monetary funds. But I can't say that, they're going to be a program that's going to be out here outbidding folks for the top guys they want. So I think part of that is going to be, making sure that, their portal efforts are kind of kept on the low, on the down low, and there's not too much, there's not too much, interference and opportunity for other programs to drive prices up, because that is a large part of what this game is now. So I do think you'll see a lot of, I do think you'll see a good amount of additions, but it probably won't be the most public.
Yeah, I think you've heard Dabo Swinney talk about this since season's end, and kind of how they're going to approach the portal, and it's going to be much like Clemson approaches their recruiting. Granted, it has to be a little bit more expedited. You can't have that time to necessarily build those relationships like Clemson likes to build through high school recruiting. However, there's going to be a huge monetary piece to this. Clemson's going to have their collectives in order and be able to offer competitive packages when it comes to the NIL stuff. Otherwise, you're not going to get the guys that you're targeting. It's just one of those things where you have to be competitive with the money. You don't have to go outbid people, I don't think. I think Clemson's a place with kind of a unique culture. It's a unique place to play. It's a big brand in college football, and it's a place where you can afford to maybe not offer quite as much as some other universities and still get those players to come play for you. So it's going to be a big part of just identifying, first of all, like you said, the needs of the team, right? And that kind of stuff has already been in the works for quite some time for Clemson. They know exactly kind of where they're going for the most part when it comes to this portal season. They know where their needs are going to be. They know the holes that need to be filled. Will some of that kind of ebb and flow as we go through the month of December? Yes, because you're going to have more and more guys declare for the draft. You're going to have more and more guys declare for the transfer portal, and maybe guys that you weren't expecting to declare will declare, right? So obviously, decisions like Will Helt's decision, right? That'll affect what you do in the defensive end group. TJ Parker, a lot of people, most people believe, myself included, he's going to the NFL. He's yet to announce, right? So that could affect what you do in the defensive end group as well. So things like that. And then obviously you've seen Khalil Barnes in the safety room go ahead and hit the transfer portal. So that was already a position of need. Now even more of a position of need for the Clemson Tigers. So that's really going to affect the portal strategy. I think they're going to have to be aggressive. They're going to have to go after players that obviously fit Clemson, that are going to come in and be contributors. And it's going to be a very different and interesting portal season for the Clemson Tigers. I can assure you of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're just going to have to exercise patience and just kind of see how these things play out. I mean, position wise, I definitely think you'll see additions at safety and defensive back and general corner, because the numbers there are looking pretty thin right now with just Marcel Gibson coming in. So I do think that's a position you're going to be looking at. I do think that, you could potentially, I'm not going to rule out quarterback, because I do think that is on the table more so than maybe Clemson is letting on. But again, a lot of that will depend on who your offensive coordinator is. Yes, James, I am watching basketball choke this lead. This is this is why I've been looking back and forth and haven't been, the most focused tonight, because I'm looking. I'm honestly quite disgusted at how bad they've played. They've scored 12 points, or what is it, 13 points in this half. This is pretty awful. And I put it. I knew I should. I had a feeling, like, when I put the tweet out, I was like, man, don't let anybody tell you this team isn't good. What a half. I should have known, like, they had this in them. But hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. But back to football. I'm not going to let this ruin the show.
Absolutely. So yeah, ton to be done as far as the transfer portal. I mean, there's a lot of position groups that are going to need help. Safety, cornerback, defensive end potentially, offensive line potentially. You may need a bridge guy or two there. Quarterback is obviously a position where, Clemson could decide to go to the transfer portal and get a guy. Running back is a point of question at this point. Obviously, you have Keith Adam Jr. already hit the transfer portal, or some of those other guys looking to hit the transfer portal. Eazy-E, Jarvis Green, Jay Haynes. Like, what are those guys thinking? In that room, could you potentially need some help there as well? So lots of different position groups that are going to need help this offseason. And the only way to add players to the roster at this point, now that the recruiting class is completely done, is via the transfer portal. So you will see Clemson lean a little bit harder into the transfer portal than you have in the past. It's going to be interesting. Fans out there that have screamed about the transfer portal are going to get their wish. So here we go. We're about to see it this offseason for the Clemson Tigers. Make sure you're catching Clemson live on all your favorite audio streaming platforms: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast from. Search Clemson Live. Whether you're on a run, on a long drive, wherever and whenever you like to listen to your podcast, search Clemson Live on all your favorite audio streaming platforms. Give us a rate review over there. We appreciate your support. NFL decisions across the country for college football stars have started trickling in, and Clemson Tigers have been no exception to this. We've had 3 total players, Jordan, so far declare for the NFL draft. Avieon Terrell, big-time cornerback for the Clemson Tigers, holds the record at Clemson as far as a defensive back for forced fumbles, with 8 total forced fumbles in his career. Peter Woods, an absolute beast at the defensive tackle position. A guy who has been very consistent over his career, has been a true Tiger through and through. He declares for the NFL draft. No big surprise there with either of those two. And then earlier on, right after the South Carolina game, obviously Antonio Williams announced that he would be declaring for the NFL draft is there. No surprise there as well. So 3 total NFL declarations so far for the Clemson Tigers, all 3 of which I think every Clemson Tiger fan for the most part could have seen coming. Not surprising. And I'm sure that's not the only 3 that will be declaring for the draft. There's still some other decisions to be made. TJ Parker's one. Will Helt's a decision that needs to be made. So we will see how it all plays out as we go through the month of December.
Dylan Hunter I think that's Dylan Hunter. Yeah. Just tied the game. This game is drunk. I don't know. They decided to make shots in the last minute, I guess. But yeah, man, no surprises as far as the NFL decisions are concerned. Peter Woods, we knew, barring a catastrophic season, he was going to go first round. There was no indication really throughout the season that a return for his senior year was on the table. So not surprised. I think he'll be a top 10, 15 pick. So, I think that was unsurprising. Avieon Terrell making his announcement was not surprising. I thought he really had a strong close to the year, and Obviously, he's getting a lot of love in draft circles right now. There was some viral clips of some of his practice film. It shows how talented he really is. Obviously, I'm interested to see where he ends up falling, because I think, I definitely think he's a first round talent, but he could be knocked for measurables. He's not the biggest, but he has experience playing corner and playing nickel. So that I think, to the right team, I think that's really intriguing. So I guess it just depends on what team, whether there's a team in the first round that thinks he's worth it. But don't think there's much he could do, coming back for another year that would, make him any different. This is a really good corner class, so I mean, maybe you could argue that maybe if he waits another year, maybe he's a little higher up. But I don't know. I think he's done enough. He's shown enough throughout the course of his career to where I think this makes the most sense for him.
Yeah, absolutely. None of these decisions surprise me. Like I said, Antonio Williams, he's done everything he can in college. No surprise there. There's nothing he's going to come back and do at Clemson that's going to make him any more desirable for the NFL draft than he already is. And he's a guy that has, had his fair share of injuries over his career, namely his sophomore year, where he missed basically the entire season. He was hurt early on in this season and still comes out, has an amazing season. You can see the difference in the offense when Antonio Williams is on the field versus when he's not on the field. So I think he's going to go and have a big opportunity in the NFL. Peter Woods, no surprise there. This guy's been a first-round draft pick since the day he walked on Clemson's campus, and that has not changed. So 3 and done was always going to be in the cards for Peter Woods, barring some sort of catastrophic injury or just decline in production, neither of which have happened, thankfully. And look for Peter Woods to have a long NFL career. And then Avieon Terrell. I mean, NFL scouts are liking this guy. He has the family pedigree, right? His brother, AJ, doing his thing in the league, has been a Pro Bowler, has been a guy for the Falcons defense since he entered the NFL. Avieon, a little bit smaller, a little bit undersized, but a guy that plays tough, plays physical, and does extremely well on the outside. So all 3 of these guys, I think, are going to have really good NFL careers. Now, Jordan, let's talk about a few guys that have their decisions left to make. Most namely, I want to talk about the 2 defensive ends that have a decision to make. Obviously, I'm talking about TJ Parker. Just got married recently, so shout out to him. He got married in the bye week, the second bye week of Clemson season this year. He's got a decision to make as far as whether he's going to declare for the NFL draft or come back for another season or transfer somewhere. That is in the cards. Like, let's not pretend like that would be the craziest thing that would happen. And then also Will Helt. Will Helt has another year, obviously transferred from Purdue last season, had probably the best year of any Clemson defensive lineman as far as from a consistency standpoint and just the overall production that he had this year. I think he had a really strong season at Clemson, and he's got a decision to make. Is he going to go pro, or is he going to come back, put some more on tape, and hopefully make his draft stock even better next year? Jordan, your thoughts on those 2 defensive end and kind of where you think they're going to land as far as their NFL decisions?
Yeah, sorry, a little distracted watching the final seconds. BYU 1.3 seconds left, tie game. I'm preparing for heartbreak. And
oh my
there
God!
It is. He made it.
Wow. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off, fellas. Yeah.
Why did I mean, that's Clemson. That's Clemson basketball if I've ever seen it. Oh my God. Okay. Well, just to kind of throw that off to the side. Yeah, I mean, in regards to the defensive ends, Will Helt, obviously he has another year, and could potentially use it, as well as TJ Parker. I think that it's probably more likely you get Will Helt back than TJ Parker. I will say that. There's still, those conversations are still being had. I think it's just a matter of, kind of seeing how things play out. But I'm of the opinion you probably don't have TJ Parker back next year. But Will Helt, based off of reports, the conversations have been positive as far as potentially returning. So doesn't guarantee anything. He could end up deciding, hey, I'm gonna go take my chances and go pro. But if you could if you can hold on to at least one of them, I think that's a big positive for the defense for next season. So we'll see how those things play out. But like I said, I think that TJ is probably. I think you're probably more likely to bring back Will Helt than TJ Parker.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. If I had to put a number to it, Will Helt, is he coming back to school? Is he heading off to the NFL draft? I'm kind of 60-40 with him. 60%, I think he's coming back to Clemson for another season. 40%, I think he may go to the NFL draft. So that's kind of where I land on him. And then TJ Parker's more like maybe a 70-30. 70% he's going to the NFL draft, maybe 30% chance that he comes back to school and plays for the Tigers next season. So I fully expect that, if I had to put money on it today, TJ Parker's going to go to the NFL draft. Will Helt will be back at Clemson next year, which will be huge. Holding on, like you said, to one of those guys is going to be pivotal for this defensive end group, because you're going to need one of those guys. Obviously, you have the emergence of Lawson this past season and how much he's improved, but he's going to be coming off of injury. You're going to need some of those younger guys to step up, and you're probably going to have to go and get some portal guys to be contributors in that room as well. So interesting decisions left to be made for the Tigers. I'm sure we will get those answers in the coming weeks. But just a wait and see type approach when it comes to the NFL decisions. And those are kind of the two biggest looming ones out there, I think, that we're waiting to hear from.
Yep.
All right, make sure you check out the Amazon link. It's in the description of this video. It's in the description of every video. As you're doing your holiday shopping, you're going to do plenty of that shopping, if not most of that shopping, on Amazon. So do us a favor, copy the Amazon link in the description of this video. And when you are checking out on Amazon for your big old Christmas list that you're buying, just paste that Amazon link in there. It doesn't change anything for you. The shopping experience is exactly the same. It's not going to charge you any extra money. It's simply going to give a kickback to the Voice of College Football and help support shows like this one right here that you're watching, the All-In Show right here on the Clemson at the Voice of College Football. So you might as well help us out. You're already going to shop a ton on Amazon for the holiday season. So go ahead and copy that link from the description of this video and every video that we post. And your help with that would be greatly appreciated. Jordan, a lot has happened in college football since championship weekend, and it has not been a large amount of time, but a lot of stuff has happened since then. Obviously, the playoff rankings, the committee's rankings, final rankings came out on Selection Sunday, and there has been a lot of controversy, a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of emotions about these rankings and what should and what shouldn't have happened and who should and who shouldn't have got in. And the ACC has kind of been in the middle of this because Obviously, doomsday scenario came calling for the ACC. We talked about it several times on the show leading up into championship weekend, and just kind of the weeks leading up to who would actually be playing for the conference championship, because the ACC was such a mess this year. It ended up being Virginia standing alone at the top, and then a five-way tie below them in which Duke won based off of some arbitrary, crazy tiebreaker rules that the ACC has. So ultimately, a 7-5 Duke team was playing an ACC championship game against Virginia. And what do you know? All Virginia had to do was win the game, and they were in the playoffs. And all would have been well. But this is the ACC we're talking about here, and we all know that that could not happen. Obviously, I mean, you could see it. It was like a slow-mo car wreck. You could see it coming from a mile away before the game ever started, that Duke somehow, some way, was going to win that game. And as valiant of an effort as Virginia put up at the end to try to come back, they came up short. Duke won. Doomsday scenario blows up in the ACC's laps. Now, no ACC team is going to be in a 12-team playoff. So for the very first time, granted, this is only the second year of the 12-team playoff, but you're going to have a Power Four conference not represented in a 12-team playoff. Oh, and by the way, you're going to have two Group of Five conferences represented in that same 12-team playoff. So it was a crazy scenario. Obviously, the debate came between Alabama, Notre Dame, and Miami. Obviously, I think Notre Dame fans are going to disagree with this, Jordan. But it was very clear between Notre Dame and Miami. You had the exact same record. You had similar resumes. And you played on the field. Regardless of whether it was week one or whatever week it was, you played on the field and you got beat. Head-to-head has to matter. The games on the field have to be king in the sport of college football. So Miami gets in over Notre Dame. Notre Dame fans completely melt down. They freak out. They're attacking the ACC, saying that they went on a smear campaign and they were lobbying for Miami over Notre Dame. Of course, they were lobbying for Miami over Notre Dame. Why would they not? Miami is a member institution when it comes to football. Notre Dame is not. You may be a member institution when it comes to every other sport that the ACC plays, but you're not a member institution in football. So why would they not lobby for Miami? Also, there wasn't much lobbying to do. They beat you on the field. So, Jordan, talk about some of this craziness and the meltdown that's happened on Twitter, that's happened on social media since these committee rankings have come out and since we are in the wake of conference championship. Lots has happened. BYU got bounced out because they got blown out by Texas Tech. Alabama gets blown out in the SEC championship game by Georgia, doesn't drop at all. Ohio State loses to Indiana. Indiana jumps to first. Ohio State falls to second. Just a crazy, crazy time in college football. A fun time. Lots of debate, lots of hurt feelings, lots of pissed off fans, lots of pissed off universities. But just give me your take on it all and what you think about all this.
Yeah, I'll start by saying this. I do think the committee made the right decision putting Miami in over Notre Dame. I do think Notre Dame does have a reason to be upset. I think they're directing their anger in the wrong direction. Like, here's the thing. Like I said, I think the playoff committee made the right decision picking Miami over Notre Dame. That being said, why they decided to flip-flop Miami and Notre Dame after championship weekend when neither team played a game, that I didn't quite understand. I was, okay, so if Miami was always ahead of Notre Dame, why didn't you have them before, before this week? That part, I get Notre Dame fans' frustrations because if the head-to-head didn't matter 2 weeks ago, why does it matter now?
100%.
I think the reasoning the playoff chairman gave was that BYU losing put Notre Dame and Miami in direct comparison with each other.
Right.
And, because they had BYU, there was BYU separating them or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but now that they were right adjacent to each other, then they compared each other head to head. I think that was really silly. I think that's kind of silly reasoning. But I do think that they made the right decision. And I also question, the decision not to move Bama at all. Listen, I think Alabama probably should have got in. I'm not necessarily mad at their inclusion, but it did seem odd to me that they went into that weekend just no matter what Alabama does, they're not moving. No matter how badly Alabama could potentially lose, they're not moving. Especially when the opposite would not have been true. If they had beaten Georgia in the SEC championship game, they would have gotten a significant bump.
Yes.
And Georgia probably would have been punished at least to some degree. So that part, the inconsistency with how they've treated conference championship games, I think they have reasons to. There's reasons to be upset, but that really doesn't have that much to do with Notre Dame because they didn't play in a conference championship game. And then the Notre Dame, going after ACC leadership for. I don't even know what they did to smear Notre Dame more than they just promoted Miami, but whatever. Listen,
apparently playing the Notre Dame Miami game on repeat on ACC Network somehow, in Notre Dame's eyes, swayed the committee into putting Notre Dame or Miami in over Notre Dame. I question the validity of that logic. I don't think that tracks at all. But whatever. Notre Dame can be mad at that. Yeah, and the whole athletic director coming on and saying the ACC has done permanent damage between the relationship between Notre Dame and the ACC. Man, save me that nonsense, dude. First of all, whatever. You got as good of a deal with the ACC as you can possibly get. Please go find another conference out there that is going to let you use and abuse them like this clown show of an ACC conference does year in and year out when it comes to Notre Dame. I'm so sick of Notre Dame and their exceptions to rules and how, one of the most absurd things is when they're voting on the playoffs. Each conference has their conference commissioner in the room voting on the new playoff rules. And guess whose athletic director's in there with them? Notre Dame's. I'm so sick of the concessions around college football for Notre Dame. You finally got punished because you're not in a conference. Tough luck. Do I get Notre Dame's frustrations? Of course. But what happened was the right thing. Miami should have gotten in over Notre Dame. The problem is the committee had it wrong the whole time. Notre Dame should have never been ranked ahead of Miami. So I do get their frustration from that sense of how were we consistently ranked above Miami, and suddenly now it matters on the final playoff rankings. Now it matters. It should have mattered the whole time. Miami should have been ahead of Notre Dame the entire time, and it would have saved a lot of this argument. If anything, Notre Dame should be mad at Alabama. There's a more plausible argument to be made between Notre Dame and Alabama than there is Notre Dame and Miami.
Yeah.
For the simple fact of the head-to-head. You cannot ignore that. So be mad at Bama for getting in. Be mad at somebody else. It's not the ACC's fault. It's not Miami's fault. I think it was clear as far as the comparison of Notre Dame and Miami the entire time. I don't think that's a controversial take at all. If anybody thinks that's controversial, that Miami gets in over Notre Dame when they had the exact same record, similar resumes, and Miami won head-to-head. Then why play college football games, right? We'll just play it on paper. Who's got the best roster? Who's got the best recruiting class? And we'll just, we'll play fantasy football here. So I don't know. I don't know why they're attacking the ACC. I get they're mad. I get they're frustrated, but it's misplaced frustration. Um, they'll get over it.
Yeah, but
It's
I
about time
think
for them to get punished for being an independent. About time.
yeah, and I don't even necessarily agree it's because they don't play in a conference that they didn't get in. I mean, they didn't. There were, I mean, the teams they got, well, especially Miami, the team that got picked over didn't play in their conference championship game. I don't necessarily agree that like that was the
No,
like
I'm just
if
saying.
Notre Dame was in a conference that that would
Yeah,
have changed it, but you keep the schedule the same. I don't know if that
right.
really changes much.
I'm just saying hypothetically, like if they would have played in the ACC this year, they would have played for the conference championship,
Yeah.
and then they would have probably been fine.
Yeah, that would. Yeah, but at the end of the day, they had two opportunities to beat two playoff teams at the beginning of the season and lost both of them. One of them was at home. So, I mean, you can only feel so sorry for. And listen, I think Notre Dame is good. I think they're one of the 10. I think they're one of the 10 best teams in the country. But this is not about. I mean, this is not. This is if the way this playoff system is set up, merit matters more than power rating for the most part. Now there, and I say that with the caveat that there is some power rating that goes into that, which is why Alabama with 3 losses is in the playoff. But I do think that you have to, when you have a direct comparison between teams like head to head, that's a merit-based thing. Now you can think that Notre Dame today is a better football team than Miami. I might not even necessarily disagree with you, but if we are going to, value the games that are played on the field, then that's the conclusion that they necessarily had to come to. And the Notre Dame getting upset with the ACC, I saw it was funny. I saw somebody put out this tweet. I think it encapsulated this whole situation perfectly. Notre Dame being upset with the ACC for promoting Miami is like the side chick getting upset with her man for hanging out with his wife and kids for the holidays. Like, what do you expect? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, I'm like, hey, look, hey, the side chick might be prettier. They might, you might actually have more fun with the side chick. And I'm not. Hold on. The All In show does not condone cheating. Let me just put that out there. This is just purely within the hypothetical created by another anonymous Twitter user. This, like, why would you be surprised that the ACC is going to champion the team that is actually in the conference? And now people are going to say, but that Notre Dame is an ACC member in the other sports except for hockey. And I'm like, well, yeah, but we're talking about football, and Notre Dame deliberately, by choice, is not a member of the ACC in football. So you cannot expect the ACC to cater to your best interests over a full member of the conference. I don't know why that shouldn't be controversial. I don't like, and
no, it shouldn't be. And they already catered to Notre Dame enough. They get a full vote in the ACC, and they're not a full member. That's catering to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And like, it's not hard to figure out why the ACC wanted Miami in over Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It's money. If Miami gets in, the conference gets money. If Notre Dame gets in, Notre Dame gets money. It's pretty simple. Like, it's just crazy, man. So, I get their frustration. I get why they're irritated. But they are one of the 12 best teams in college football right now, in my opinion. But guess what? Who cares who I think the 12 best teams in college football are? I don't care who the committee thinks the 12 best teams in college football are. I don't think that's the point of the playoffs. You have to earn your way to the playoffs on the field. So what, in December, we're just going to sit back and let a committee pick who they think the 12 best teams are in the month of December, regardless of record, and that's how we should seed the playoffs? No. You have to play on the field. The games have to matter, and you lost. That's why you're not in the playoffs. It sucks. I get it. I'd be pissed if it was Clemson, but at the same time, as pissed as I would be, I'd be like, well, we lost to Miami. We shouldn't have lost that game. If we wouldn't have lost that game, we'd have been fine. Right? So the games on the field have to matter. Just because you are, quote unquote, according to popular opinion, one of the best 12 teams in the country right now, doesn't mean you should be in the playoff. I don't think that's a way to seed a playoff. A bunch of people's opinions about who the best team in the country is? Really? That's what we're going to do? No. That's crazy. That's not sustainable.
No.
Your record has to matter. Can how you play on the field also matter? Power ratings, can that be a piece of it? Sure. But to simply just put people in based on because you think they're better? No. It's like when Florida State got left out, right? As crazy as it was to see them cry and whine about it, like they legitimately had a gripe. Because, I mean, it's crazy to just be like, well, they're not as good now. Which they weren't, but still. I digress.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I can't feel that sorry for him. And James makes a great point. I mean, like Notre Dame is acting like this is the biggest screw job in playoff history, and Florida 2023 Florida State has a much bigger gripe with
bigger, dude.
With the college football playoff committee than Notre Dame ever did. I mean, good Lord. I mean, they went 13-0 and won the conference championship. Like, didn't lose a football game and got left out. So
they're like, nah, you good. You're not good enough.
Now, granted, that was the 4-team playoff, and they certainly would have made it in a 12-team. They certainly would have made it in a 12-team playoff. But I think that was a more head scratching. Like, how could you do that sort of thing?
I think that was pretty egregious.
Yeah.
Granted, losing your quarterback was huge.
Yeah.
But they had lost their quarterback, and they still went and won their conference championship game.
Yep.
You could say, well, it's the ACC conference championship game, but regardless, it's still a Power 4 conference championship game. So yeah, I think FSU. They hold the candle when it comes to screw jobs by the college football playoff committee. And Notre Dame, as close as they think they are, they're not even close.
Yeah.
But this is the playoffs. This will happen every single year. Every single year, there is 1-2 teams that feel like they got screwed out of a college football playoff for whatever reason or another. And it'll happen no matter – it happened in the 14 playoff. You remember Georgia back when they were – 2023? When they were back-to-back national champions, undefeated, they go into Atlanta, play Alabama in the SEC championship game, lose, and then drop out of the 14 playoff. Right? They could claim, oh, we got screwed, but regardless of how much you expand it, it was 4, now it's 12. You can expand it to 16. You can expand it to 20. You can expand it to whatever you want. There's always going to be 1 or 2 teams that think they got screwed at the end of every single year when it comes to the playoffs. People being mad, people being upset doesn't mean that the whole system is completely broken. Yes, there are issues within the college football playoff system, I believe, but it's not completely broke. It's not completely a wreck. And I don't think this is proof that you need to add more teams either.
I couldn't have said it better. I mean, listen, and this is what people wanted. I was pretty against expansion. It's doing all the things that I thought it would, and I'm not even like trying to say like I was some visionary, because there were plenty of people pointing out, when the expanded playoff was proposed, what this would do to the health of the sport, to the conversation around the sport. Now everything is about the playoff. You've got teams opting out of bowl games. Notre Dame took their ball and went home and opted out of their bowl game because they didn't get their way. Because now you've completely devalued what it means to go to a bowl game. If you're not in the playoff, it's like, what are you doing? Like, that's the mentality now.
Yeah.
When before, bowl games used to be a capitulation to a nice season for most teams. Now it's like,
and I think you could have kept it that way if you would have stayed with the 14 model.
yeah.
I think you could have kept maybe not value in every bowl game, but those top bowl games, like the two that weren't a part of the 14 playoff, those bowl games still had value, right? And it started way back when with players opting out of quote unquote meaningless bowl games. I hate the term. I think a bowl game is a reward for a team at the end of a season. I don't think it's meaningless. A lot of fans will completely disagree with me, and that's fine. That's the culture that's been created around college football when the 14 playoff happened. You started hearing meaningless bowl games then, and it's gotten even worse as time has gone on, and you have now expanded to 12. Everything's meaningless. Everything's a pointless game. Nothing matters. And now to the point where you're right, Jordan. Not only do we have players opting out of bowl games, now you got entire universities opting out of bowl games. Completely ridiculous, dude. Like Notre Dame, I know you're pissed. Get over yourself. Stop throwing a temper tantrum and allow those seniors on your team that have zero chance of playing in the NFL, zero chance of ever playing football again in their life. Allow them to go play the bowl game. But instead, no, you want to throw a fit. You want to slam your head on the ground like a toddler throwing a temper tantrum, in hopes of what, punishing college football in some way. Like they really think that somehow it negatively affects college football that they took their ball and went home. All you did was one, rob your seniors on that team that have no NFL aspirations of their final game in a Notre Dame uniform, and you robbed yourself of a payday that comes with a bowl game. College football will go on, Notre Dame. Whether you opt out of every bowl game from now until kingdom come or you don't, college football will go on. So that's all I got.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's where we are now, and there's no way you can go back in the opposite direction. Now you're probably gonna see it expand to 14 or 16.
Of course, they will, because more teams is the answer, right? Yeah. Because when we go to 16, the 17 team won't be crying and throwing a fit just like Notre Dame, right? Of course they will. It's not the number. You're always going to have controversy when it comes to you have a finite amount of slots and all these teams trying to get it. I think the 14 model was fine. I wish we'd go back to it, but that'll never happen. So moving on. Clemson finally got their bowl game announced, the Pinstripe Bowl. What is it? Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. Yes, Clemson sir. Will be heading up to none other than New York, the Bronx, to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Interesting matchup here, Jordan, for a couple reasons. One, we have Penn State's former defensive coordinator from their playoff run a season ago in Tom Allen on staff now. Also, these were two teams heading into the season that were picks by several media members. Several media members picked Penn State to win a national championship. Several media members picked Clemson to win a national championship. Neither of which even came close to happening. Penn State fell off a cliff. Obviously, they had that overtime loss to Oregon earlier in the season. James Franklin gets fired. Their coaching search is a mess. They finally got that figured out. They lost basically their entire recruiting class. I think they signed 2 recruits in their high school recruiting class, which is wild. But they finally get a coach hired. Clemson obviously has their own issues this season. Very disappointing season. Very underwhelming, underperforming as far as from the preseason expectations. So a lot of interesting storylines going into this game. What do you think about the bowl matchup? Are you excited to be playing Penn State? It's a little bit of a different bowl for Clemson, other than some of the ones that they've gone to several times. So I'm looking forward to the matchup. I think it'll be interesting. We'll see what Penn State kind of looks like as far as the product they're able to put on the field. Same thing with Clemson. How many opt-outs are you going to have? How many people head off to the NFL draft and are not going to participate? So on and so forth. So you'll see probably trimmed down versions of these teams, but it'll still be an exciting game nonetheless.
Yeah. This is, I mean, it's the Pinstripe Bowl, man. This is what we all were hoping for heading into the year.
That's right. We reached the pinnacle. This was the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no, I mean, this is an extremely, one of the more interesting matchups of bowl season for, a lot of the wrong reasons. But hey, you get to play another coach that, you get to play another team that fired their coach. So that's great. You get to start your season with a team that fired their coach, and you end your season with one with a team that fired their coach. Now let's see if you don't go 0-2. That would be something.
All right, you're asking a lot here.
I know. But we'll see. Clemson and Penn State have only played one other time, way back in the day. I believe it was 1988. I cannot remember what the bowl game was, but Clemson and Danny Ford, stomped the Nittany Lions in a decade where both programs were really good, and both won national championships during that decade. So it's a good, really good win for Clemson. And I think this is a game that I feel like Clemson should. They need to come into this game and do everything in their power to win it, because just optics, losing to a team that's in transition from one coach to the next, and with so many players that you would expect to not play or opt out, and and they're still just trying to figure out, what they're not trying to figure out, but they're getting everything in order with Matt Campbell. I would imagine Matt Campbell is not coaching this team in the bowl game.
No, I'm sure it'll be the interim.
That's a program that's really right now solely focused on, probably acquiring portal talent and getting things ready for Matt Campbell to come and take over in year one. So, I mean, the bowl game is probably the last thing on their mind. Clemson doesn't have that excuse. They still have their head coach. They haven't made any staff changes, any significant staff changes so far. Obviously, we'll find out which, what players are playing and who's not. But, I mean, your quarterback will be playing. So that gives you a leg up already. Drew Aller has been out for the entire season, the entire back half of the season with injury, and you won't see him in that game. So, I mean, that's a big advantage right there. And then I just tend to think you'll probably have more guys playing than Penn State, but we'll see. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's questions on who will be playing, right? I think you're correct. I think Kay Klubnik will obviously be playing. I don't see him sitting out at all. Adam Randall, I think, will be a guy that plays. Some of your NFL guys, are they going to play? Avieon Terrell, probably not. He got hurt against South Carolina anyway. So him playing, I think, is probably not going to happen. Peter Woods, is he going to play? I tend to think not. Antonio Williams, probably not either. Again, I don't know. I can't speak for these guys, but you're going to be missing some pieces on that defense. Khalil Barnes entered the transfer portal. You're probably not going to have Avieon Terrell for the game. So that's two out of your secondary that played significant snaps for you this season. So holes to fill there, just off the top of my head there. So it'll be an interesting game. We'll be able to kind of draw more of a conclusion on how the game will play out as we get closer and how we know the rosters are going to shake out and who's going to be actually participating and who's not going to be participating. So I think it'll be a fun game regardless. You get to go play on a baseball stadium. I guess that's kind of cool. So we'll see the battle of the disappointments of 2025. That'll be the Bad Boy Mower Pinstripe Bowl, Clemson Tigers versus Penn State Nittany Lions. So it'll be fun. I'm happy that Clemson made it to a bowl game, and hopefully we can get a W, and we'll get to 8-5, Jordan, on the season. Which if you go back to fall camp, 8-5, we would have we'd have been excited about that.
Oh yeah. We've been jumping for joy, man.
So there you have it, guys. That is the show tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for getting in here, hanging out with us, doing all the things. Hit that like button while you're in here. Consider subscribing. Me and Jordan do this show year round, every single Tuesday, 8 p.m. right here, talking Clemson football, talking college football. So hope you guys will come hang out with us, not just now, but throughout the offseason. So hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you don't miss any of our live videos or any of the videos that we post throughout the week. Now the time has come for you guys to shine. We're going to turn it over to you guys, the comment section. So make sure you get your questions, your comments in, and we will get to as many as we can before we get out of here.
Yep, let's do it. Whew. What a day. What a week. What a night. I'm still just kind of I'm stewing like over that basketball game. I mean,
yeah, that was I knew as soon as they inbounded. Yeah,
I felt it when it left it.
Even before he released the shot, I was like, "Oh no!"
Because he got a clean look at it. Nobody was directly in front of him. He kind of split the contest.
Yeah, and nobody was in front of him.
It was a clean release. I was like, man, 1.3 seconds. I was like, I thought BYU made a mistake not letting. I thought Kevin Young made a mistake calling a timeout with 1.3 seconds. I was like, well, that's not really enough time to draw up a real, a play. I mean, inbound wise, and then that was the call. It was.
I guess they didn't need any more than 1.3 seconds. They had all they needed was catch and shoot. So
yeah, I mean, and listen, I get it defensively why they played it. I mean, you don't want to foul. That's the last thing you want to do is foul on a jump shot at the end of the game. So like they didn't like jump into the shot and try to contest. But man, that
you got to get a hand up in front of his face at least.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that shouldn't have been in that position. You were up 21 points in the first half.
Right.
I mean, that was embarrassing. But not going to make this about basketball because, and I will say this: I know some of you guys want us to do more basketball content, so and more other sports content. So this is a good time to just get this off. I still think this team is good, but they clearly show that they still have. Right now this is a team that does not have a go-to guy. I think guys are still kind of settling into their roles. I mean, you have guys that will have spurts here and there. Justin Porter at the end of the half was great. Carter Welling at different points this year, he's had good moments. Dylan Hunter, obviously that end of sequence that almost sent this game to overtime, like that was great. I mean, one of your veterans. You've gotten good. RJ Godfrey has been honestly he's probably been your most consistent player. But he's not a guy you necessarily build an offense around. He's not the most versatile weapon. I mean, he's a great low post scorer, great rebounder, but like he's not a go-to guy offensively. They don't have that right now. Butta Johnson, he hit some big shots tonight, but not always consistent. Zach Foster is still kind of growing. Chase Thompson as well. Those are young guys. Like this is Nick Davidson had some nice moments tonight, but you don't have a guy that you feel like, oh man, that's the guy that teams have to be wary of every game. Like BYU with AJ Debonsa, who was he stunk it up in the first half, but then he showed why he was the number 1 overall player in his class in the second half, and you just had nothing for him. But regardless, if you had just put up a mediocre half of offense in the second half, you win. You're up 21 points. You had the cushion. So I mean, yeah, that's largest comeback in BYU history. That's not a distinction that I'm very pleased that Clemson is now a part of, but is what it is. I still think this team is good, and I think they're going to win a good amount of games this year, and they've shown that. They've had some really good wins, but it's clear that they are very capable of having lulls like that. And until they find that go-to guy, these types of performances are going to be a possibility, especially in that second half, and that's frustrating because you should have won that game, just flat out. I mean, you have a lead by that much, no matter how good the team is that you're playing. You got to win that game. All right, but that's my rant. Let me kick it over to y'all. John says there are a fair number of fans of the tri-state and New England areas. I know you're a part of that. Well, reasonably active alum clubs in Boston and New York City, for example. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of alumni in New York City. So because Clemson, there's a lot of guys that went to a lot of people that went to business school at Clemson and other. And other professions where New York City is where you end up. For opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities up there. So I expect a pretty decent turnout. I don't know if you'll outnumber Penn State just geographically. I think that probably favors them, and they probably have a larger alumni base to begin with. But I think there'll be a decent turnout for this bowl game. I mean, Clemson fans just tend to travel well anyway. I mean, there's going to be people that have no connection to the state of New York, but I think that they're going to travel up there anyway. I mean, TBC, you spent some time in the Big Apple.
Did I spent it? I was stationed up at Drum for a while, up in upstate New York.
Yes.
So a little bit of different feel up there, more farmland and and rural area. Basically Canada.
It might as well be two different states, like upstate New York and then like New York City.
They should name it two different things. Like it's like New York City, and then just like New York, just rename it.
New York City is like its own city state.
It's its own place. Like it's nothing like upstate New York. But yeah, lots of snow, freezing cold weather. Great summers though. I mean, summers in upstate New York are magnificent, beautiful, great weather. They just don't last long enough. That's the problem up there. You get too much. You get snow for like 8 months out of the year half the time. Yeah. So, it's more than I'm willing to put up with. So luckily, I'm back down in the South where I belong.
Yeah, well, we're definitely glad to have you back here than up there with them Yankees.
But I did get to go to every Syracuse game. Or Clemson Syracuse game, I should say, while I was up there. So in the what I will forever call the Carrier Dome.
Yeah,
I don't know what they call it now, but
the JMA wireless, whatever
they call it.
It doesn't.
It's good they changed the name from the Carrier Dome though, because they ain't got no AC.
Yeah,
so I don't know exactly how you're sponsored by an AC company and you don't have any AC. I don't quite know how that works, but hey,
probably just a big practical.
This myth in upstate New York is you don't need AC. Yeah, bull crap. It still gets warm.
People don't know that heat gets trapped no matter like that's thermodynamics, buddy.
Right.
It doesn't matter geographically where you are.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Heat gets trapped in buildings. It's pretty self-explanatory. Let's see. Yeah, that's right. It was the Florida Citrus Bowl that Clemson played Penn State in. Yes. David thinks that Penn State hired a great coach in Matt Campbell. Yeah, I mean, I think Matt Campbell is as good of a football coach as you'll find in college football right now. I mean, just the way what he did at Iowa State, I think is really impressive.
Yeah.
That's a school that just is historically has been one of the worst, Power Five, when there was a Power Five programs in college football, but he turned them into consistent bowl games, and they would even have a double-digit win season here or there in his tenure. So and they played for the Big 12 title a few times. I mean, he's the best coach in school history. I mean, so I think. Penn State, their head coaching search was all over the place, but as far as where things ended up, I think they did all right.
Especially considering the debacle that was their coaching search. I mean, it went about as bad as it could for a while there.
Yeah,
for Penn State. So for them to land on Matt Campbell, I mean, they could have done a whole lot worse.
You could have,
because their coaching search went horribly. It went off the rails, and it looked like they were, heading for a big time crash. But they land on Matt Campbell, and I think it's a pretty good hire for them. Will he ultimately meet the expectation that Penn State fans want there? That's a tough ask, and that remains to be seen. So, I still think they take a step back in the immediate future.
Yeah.
Even with Matt Campbell coming on board, their whole recruiting class fell apart. You have a ton of people leaving Penn State, so it's going to take. They're going to have to be a little patient because you got to restock those cupboards, if you will, because with just how everything went down after James Franklin left and the recruiting class. I mean, it's you got a personnel issue at Penn State right now. And you didn't have that like 4 months ago, but you do now. So they have to understand that.
Yeah, and to Penn State's credit, they will have some money to play with in the portal. Sure. So I mean, they
luckily you got them in place prior to the portal, so you can maybe put some Band-Aids on some of that damage that you did with the firing and the botched coaching search.
Yeah, 100%. KD doesn't think Matt Campbell will be there in 4 years. I mean, hey, listen, if you told me that the Matt Campbell experiment just does not go well, I wouldn't necessarily say I'd be shocked. Now, I don't know if that's because I think Matt Campbell is a good coach, but being a good coach is half the battle. It's how much support do you get? Mm-hmm. How much fun? I mean, so some of it comes down to luck. How much funds do you get per year? Are there? How well are you recruiting? Because, like I said, I think he's a great coach, but what is? How effectively will he recruit with a bigger budget?
Right.
I haven't heard anything that says that Matt Campbell is not a good recruiter. But will he get the kind of talent at Penn State that is necessary to compete with the Ohio States and the Ohio States and the Michigans and now Oregon and now hell Indiana. The Big Ten is as competitive as it's been at the top in a while, and so. It's going to be tough. I mean, Penn State certainly they have the money to play with, but are they going to be able to build the roster? With Matt Campbell as head coach, the way that they were with James Franklin, I don't know. We'll see. But if he doesn't get results, they will get rid of it because that is.
If he ain't making the playoffs in 2 years, you're probably gonna be hot seat talk.
Yeah,
Penn State fans are, they want to compete for national championships.
Yeah.
Which is why they got rid of James Franklin. So
yeah, because I mean, listen, if you're missing the playoff, I mean, it's really going to be tough to look back and justify the firing of James Franklin, who just a year ago had you like a play away, literally a play, like damn near like 1 or 2 plays away from playing for a national championship. Like,
right.
I don't, you know, I don't think they should have fired James Franklin to begin with, but like I could be wrong, and things could, we look back on that, and Matt Campbell is a huge success, and it's like, okay, they made the hire, and they took a calculated risk, but they made the hire that took the program to the next level. I don't necessarily know if that's going to be what happens, but if it does, I'll eat my words. And
I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm with you. I don't think firing James Franklin was the right move at that point, but I do get it from the standpoint of they felt like they were kind of banging their head against the same ceiling over and over again. And then after that Oregon game, it kind of came off the rails for Penn State there, and losing games that you shouldn't be losing. And so, I mean, I do get it. I don't know if that was the best move that they could have made, but again, we'll see. Matt Campbell could go in there and have them in contention every single year, and it turns out to be a great thing. Or you could take a giant step back and wish that you were winning 10 games a season again. It could go either way. But if you would have asked me a week ago before they hired Matt Campbell, I'd have been like, yeah, Penn State's going to the dark ages, bro. Like they can't even find a coach. BYU's out here outbidding them for coaches. Like, if you'd asked me a week ago, Penn State was heading to some dark times. But maybe they got their guy after all, and he can kind of be that stabilizer there.
Yeah. James Thompson says Woods and Parker won't play.
Probably not.
Probably not. And just based off of history, when it comes to players that have made the NFL draft decisions with Clemson, the guys that have declared for the NFL draft, after the regular season, have tended to not play in the bowl game. Mm-hmm. So Peter Woods, I wouldn't expect him to play. Don't think he needs to. So I guess I mean, really at this point, I can't blame him. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the whole opt-out thing, but at this point, that's just what this sport is.
If I had it my way, everybody would play every game.
Yeah.
But I get the injury risk, and that kind of stuff. So I'm not mad that they don't play, but I wish everybody would play.
Yeah. And with TJ Parker, I think the only event where he plays in the bowl game is where he decides he's going to come back to Clemson for another year. But I don't, like I said, I don't think that's more likely than him leaving in one fashion or another. So
there's
whether he declares for the draft or decides to hit the portal, he's not playing in the bowl. I don't think he would play in the bowl game in either scenario, obviously. So I think the only way you see TJ Parker against Penn State is if he's, if he decides to come back. And that would be really interesting for a number of reasons, because people probably don't remember, but TJ Parker was committed to Penn State before he committed to Clemson during his recruitment. So, that's another little wrinkle that honestly I just now really thought about. But yeah. Let's see. Tiger Tom says, is Notre Dame a bad sport for taking their ball and going home, or did they really get the shaft? A little bit of both. I mean, I think they are a bad sport for, handling it the way they did. It kind of reminds me of how Florida State handled their snub. And I think that's part of the reason why they're in the situation they're in today. Now, I think Florida State handled it in probably the worst possible way. I don't think Notre Dame's reaction is quite as bad as Florida State's, but I do think they have handled this in the wrong way. I mean, especially when you compare it to a program like Vanderbilt, who, their head coach is Clark Lee, who was a coordinator for Notre Dame. The difference in approach. I mean, like, Clark Lee was like, we don't really have anybody to blame but ourselves. And, Vanderbilt, they were worthy of consideration for the playoff.
Yeah,
but
win your football games and you'll get into the playoff.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, for me, I think it's Bush League. I think it's bad taste. I think it sends a terrible message to your fans, to your players, that you're just going to quit because you didn't get your way. It just, I don't know. It shows a lack of character. That's just me. When you could, show your team how to, push through adversity, even when things don't go your way, and even when you think you were wronged, you can still show up and do the right thing. Instead of doing that, they're proceeding to go on their media tour of bashing everybody else, and basically throwing a fit by saying we're not going to play anymore. I think it's unfortunate that you would respond in that way. And no, Florida State probably handled it in a worse way, but at least they showed up to the bowl game. Now, all of their players might not have showed up to the bowl game because they had, I don't even remember how many opt-outs in that game. But at least they showed up to the bowl game.
Yeah. Which, that was. We won't talk about how that came.
3-3 was that the score? If I remember correctly.
That was that wasn't good. I mean, that situation they might as well have just not. They might as well have opted out.
Yeah, well, I think half the team did opt out.
They did. So I'm like, why?
It was like all backups. I'm pretty sure. Like,
I think that whole situation in a way kind of. I think that was the moment that the Mike Norvell tenure was not going to recover from. They still haven't.
Yeah, that was rough. That was they might have been better off pulling a Notre Dame and just not showing up, just being like, nah, we're done. That's it. We're 13-0.
Let's see. Yeah, David makes a great point. If Indiana wins the national championship, that would be 3 different Big Ten teams in 3 years. Yeah, that would be a huge blow to the SEC narrative. Which, hey, listen, I do think that the gap between the SEC and Big Ten has never been smaller, and I think there's a real argument that the Big Ten right now is a better football conference. We'll see, but over the last few years,
needs one of their teams to win in the worst way.
Yeah, I will not be rooting for that.
No, I will not be rooting for that either. But we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know who I'm rooting for at this point.
John says Clemson fans can see the Jets play the day after the Pinstripe. Yeah, I'm sure our fans would be geared up for that. Hey, I mean, we get maybe. I mean, we probably have. I mean, there's a decent amount of crossover with Clemson and Patriots fans, so maybe they're there to see Drake May spin the football. But
there you go. Yeah,
being a Jets fan, good God. Let's see.
Yeah, that's true. Brent Venables, Oklahoma. Yeah, even though it's an SEC team, I do hope the best for them.
Dylan giving a shout out to upstate New York.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's one I saw that I wanted to. PSU is still in massive rebuild mode given what has happened. Will fans even have 2 years of patience? They just fired a head coach less than a year after a deep college football playoff run. They might not. I mean, you fire a guy that was consistently winning 9-10 games a year and had you on the doorstep of a playoff. I mean, that's.
Yeah, I don't know, and I agree with that. I mean, they should have some patience and give him some time. But the way that it went down with James Franklin, I don't know that fan base will have the patience that it may take for Matt Campbell to really get going there.
All right. Breaking news. TJ Parker has announced that he will declare for the NFL draft. That has so not the most surprising thing. That answered the question we were literally just talking about. Not surprising. I felt like this was his last season with Clemson, no matter what. And he decided to go talents to the NFL.
Not just the on the field stuff, but like he just got married.
Yeah.
Does he really want to keep going to school? Like he's, I'm sure him and his wife are ready to start their life now, and he's going to go try his talents in the NFL. So I think he's got all the talent in the world to be successful there. So not a huge surprise there. Shout out to him and all those guys going pro. Hope they have a long, successful careers.
Yep, absolutely. And so to kind of
David said he thought you were going to give a Coastal Carolina coaching update.
Oh no, don't have those type of source. Well, I do have a Coastal Carolina source. He's kind of a Coastal Carolina source. If he's watching, he knows who he is. No, I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that coaching search right now, other than that Garrett Riley is involved. I also saw that Brandon Streeter.
Yeah, I saw that.
Is a name that is
interesting.
That Coastal Carolina is also interested in. He's still an offensive analyst for Georgia. That would be something.
That'd be crazy.
That would be crazy.
Go from analyst to head coach.
Fired offensive coordinator to
fired offensive coordinator
to head coach.
1 year, fired offensive coordinator to analyst for 2 seasons to head coach. It's a wild journey, but hey, if he gets it, I wish him well. Hope he does well. But has there ever been a fan base that's pulled for an assistant to get a job like Clemson is right now?
Yeah.
Everybody's just praying that somebody comes hires him.
Somebody take the bait. Somebody come get him.
It's funny to watch.
Yeah.
Because most of the times it's opposite. You're like, please don't hire my coach. Come on.
Let's do a couple more and then get on out of here. I was thinking maybe we do I was like, man, we could have stretched a long segment with the TJ Parker news, but I don't have it in me today. So that's gonna have to. Maybe we can. I don't know if we can we can edit that onto I don't know. We'll see. I'll see if we can edit this part onto or when we upload the segment about draft decisions.
Yeah.
We'll put that on there. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, Notre Dame robbed themselves of extra practices. Yeah, I mean that is probably the most valuable part of the bowls, the bowl games. But
developing your team for 2026. I mean, there's young guys there that need reps that are going to have to step up into much bigger roles next year. I mean, I don't get the logic.
All right. And no surprise. John says I'll root for Brent Venables. Yeah, I think that's probably what I'll do. I wouldn't be able to set to see Oklahoma go on a run. I think that'd be something. I thought he was going to give a Coastal. Oh wait, no, I already read that. Denhoff and Helt will have a big pinstripe game. Let's hope. And sending Garrett Riley's resumes to team. You might not want to. Yeah, that's probably not what you want to do. You probably don't want to send the resume. You probably just want to. I don't know. Maybe you can send him like the press conference. Like just send him like the introductory press conference at Clemson and him talking about the dirt raid and how you're going to run the football but yeah, don't show the numbers. Don't
show the numbers. Just cherry pick some good highlights.
Yeah.
Maybe a trick play here or there,
Yeah. Just put on the App State tape from last year. We got a Canes fan randomly show. Shout out to Miami, making their first college football playoff. I'm really proud of the Canes. They're a program that I think it's been long overdue, and I'm just really happy for that fan base. They've kind of been wallowing in self-pity for 24 years, and so to see them. Yeah, I mean, and yeah, they did it without winning the ACC. They've been in the conference for 22 years, something like that. And,
still can't win the conference, but
I think that's something to be applauded, and something to be commended. It's Miami gets their first playoff appearance.
They're the first at-large bid for the ACC. So
they are, man.
I can say something that no other ACC program could say.
I think that should be celebrated, and coming from and take our advice as a program that's made the playoffs 7 times. They've won 2 national championships in recent years. I think it's really awesome to see another program within the ACC that really just kind of carry the water for a year. It's hard being the program that carries an entire conference on its back, and so I'm really proud of Miami. I'm happy for the fans. So shout out to Black Raider Steel. Y'all are going to do great. Shout out to Mario Cristobal. He finally got out of his own way, kind of, and Miami is a playoff team for the first time ever. So shout out to the Canes.
It's about time somebody else starts pulling some weight for this conference.
Yeah.
It's about time. Wet Sox corrected me. That is correct. SMU was the first at-large bid. So sorry, Miami. You don't have that either. I was trying to give you something. I was trying to give you some kind of first, but the comment section won't let you have it. So you're the first at-large bid that didn't play in the conference championship game. There you go. See? You just gotta spin it the right way. They do great things.
Jackson Johnson, one of the legends of the Voice of College Football Network, bringing us the breaking news. We did hit on the fact T.J. Parker has declared for the NFL draft. He posted the Hayes Fawcett edit. Appreciate you. I think that's a good place to. I think that's a good place for us to end tonight, guys. We'll certainly have more to talk about next week. As more news comes out, and more NFL draft declarations, more portal decisions. We will be all over that. So y'all just stay tuned. Maybe staff changes. Who knows? And of course, as we get closer to the bowl game, we'll preview that matchup and talk about what Clemson is facing in the Nittany Lions. Good Lord, I cannot English. It's getting late. So, thank you guys so much for those of you that are still with us and that tuned in tonight. We will be here next week, and that's it for us.
All right, see you guys in the next one. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.